Hello students, welcome to my class. Let's learn history with Rajni. Today we will do the second part of our very interesting lesson of class 12th history, that is through the eyes of travelers. In the previous part we have learned about Al-Biruni. In today we will learn about Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta, who is often referred as an early globe trotter. Ibn Battuta, he wrote book Rihla. Kindly mark the students. Name of the book is Rihla. The book is written in the Arabic language. This book provides us rich and interesting details about the social and cultural life in the subcontinent. Subcontinent means that time India was having extension towards western part of Asia, and the India that this area was known as Hindustan. When we talk about the early life of Ibn Battuta, he was born in Tangier, a place in Morocco. He belonged to a very educated family, and he himself was well versed in Islamic religious law, that is Sharia. Ibn Battuta, he was more interested in practical knowledge. That is the reason that he traveled a lot, and he wanted to gain knowledge through travels rather than the book. He traveled almost throughout Asia, which include Makkah, Syria, Iraq, Persia, Yemen, Oman, and some parts of East Africa. Ibn Battuta, when he reached Sindh in 1333, he came to know about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was ruling Delhi at that time. Ibn Battuta heard a lot about the generous attitude of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he decided to reach the court of Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq appointed Ibn Battuta Qazi, or we can say judge of Delhi. He remained in this position for several years, but there was some misunderstanding between the Sultan and Ibn Battuta, and Ibn Battuta was put into prison. Once the misunderstanding was cleared, he was again appointed as a servant in the imperial service, and he was ordered in 1342 to proceed to China as the representative of Sultan to the Mongol ruler. Ibn Battuta started his journey towards China through Malabar coast. Then he went to Maldives. There he was appointed as Qazi for 18 months. Then Ibn Battuta went to Sri Lanka. Again he went to Malabar, Maldives, and then he reached Bengal and Assam. From there he took a ship to Sumatra, and then he reached to the Chinese port of Jaitun. That time now it is known as Guangzhou. He traveled a lot in China. Even he visited the city of Beijing, but he did not stay for a longer period in China and returned home in 1347. His journey towards China is often compared with the journey of Marco Polo, who was a Venetian traveler who visited China in late 13th century. Ibn Battuta, he recorded his observation about new cultures, people, beliefs, values, but we should remember that that was the time when the travel was not so easy, and there was it used to take lot of time to travel from one place to another place. For example, Ibn Battuta says that it took 40 days to travel from Multan to Delhi and about 50 days from Sindh to Delhi. In between, Ibn Battuta during his travels had to face many robbers. He has mentioned that traveling was not at all safe during that period. Ibn Battuta was attacked by bands of robbers several times. He always preferred to travel in caravan. Caravan means group of people, but caravans were also not safe. Many of times his caravans were attacked and many of his fellow travelers lost their lives. Ibn Battuta, many of the times he faced loneliness also, and he has mentioned that many times he was homesick. Ibn Battuta, he was a habitual traveler and he spent several years traveling through North Africa, Western Asia and parts of Central Asia, and he may even have visited Russia also. So by the time he returned to his country, his local ruler issued instructions that his stories be recorded. And Ibn Juzai was deputed to write the stories of Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta narrated his experiences and Ibn Juzai recorded them. Following the footsteps of Ibn Battuta, many travelers visited India. Among them were Abdul Razzaq Samarkandi, who visited South India in the 1440s, Mahmud Wali Balkhi, who was very fascinated by India, and he became a sort of sannyasi for a time. But Hazin, another traveler, was disappointed and even disgusted with India. Whatever may be the experiences of the travelers, but most of them saw India as a land of wonders. As we have seen that Ibn Battuta himself travelled a lot through these lands, visited sacred shrines, spending time with learned men and rulers, often officiating as Qazi, and enjoying cosmopolitan culture of urban centers where people spoke different type of languages. He has mentioned about many unfamiliar things which he did not see anywhere, or we can say it was not found in his homeland. He has specially mentioned about coconut and pan. Coconut was very new to him because he has not seen coconut in his motherland. So he has compared this coconut tree with the tree of dates and palms, but he says that the coconut tree is different when we talk about the fruits. He says that the nut of coconut resembles a man's head. This is very interesting description given by Ibn Battuta regarding the tree of coconut. Besides that, he has mentioned about pan. He says that the betel is grown same as the grapevine, but betel is not having any fruit. It is grown only for the sake of its leaves, and this leaf is chewed with areca nut, that in general language we call it supari. Besides that, Ibn Battuta, he was a very keen observer. He has seen many cities in India and he has given their description. He says that the cities were full of exciting opportunities. Besides that, he says that cities were densely populated and prosperous. And Ibn Battuta says that the markets of the cities were colorful and variety of goods were sold. Ibn Battuta has compared Daulatabad with Delhi. He says that Daulatabad was also not less than Delhi. Besides that, Ibn Battuta has written about the fortification of Delhi. In earlier records, Delhi was often referred as Delhi. Ibn Battuta has written about the fortification of Delhi, and he says that this boundary of Delhi was having 28 gates which were called Darwaja. Besides that, Ibn Battuta has given a detailed description of markets. He says that the bazaars were not only the places of economic transaction but also the hub of social and cultural activities. He has witnessed a mosque and a temple in almost all of the markets, and he says that there were separate spaces for public performances by dancers and magicians and singers in the market. Ibn Battuta description, some historians have used his accounts to suggest that towns derived a significant portion of their wealth through appropriation of surplus from villages. That means Ibn Battuta, he has found that Indian agriculture was very productive because land was very fertile, and Indian farmers, they used to cultivate 2 crops a year. Besides that, he has also mentioned the international trade. He says that Indian goods were at great demand, especially in Asia, and he says that India's fine muslin, silk, cotton clothes, silk, brocade and satin were at great demand. Ibn Battuta has specifically given the description of the market of Tarabad in Daulatabad. He says that this market was very colorful and it was having special places for the performances where all Hindu and Muslim rulers used to visit. Besides that, Ibn Battuta was amazed with the unique system of communication in India. He says that this communication system or the postal service was very efficient. He has noticed that in India there were 2 types of postal services. One was on horse and another was on foot. The postal network of horse was known as Uluk, and on foot it was known as Dawa. Ibn Battuta says that the Dawa service was very efficient and it was like the relay race where the messenger used to run from one post to another post with the stick which was having bells on it, and another messenger used to get ready by the time he used to hear the bells of the first messenger. So this was so efficient system that often this system was used to transport fruits from Khurasan, which were much desired in India. Besides that, Ibn Battuta has also noticed that in India there was slavery, because he has noticed that slaves were openly sold in the market like other commodities, and slaves were given as the gifts also. He himself purchased horses, camels and slaves as gifts for Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Even when he reached Multan, he presented the governor with the slave, horse, raisins and almonds. He has mentioned in his account that Muhammad bin Tughlaq awarded a preacher named Nasiruddin with 100,000 tankas means coins, and 200 slaves. Ibn Battuta says that female slaves were in great demand because they were expert in music and dance. He enjoyed their performances at the wedding of Sultan's sister. Even female slaves were also employed by the Sultan to keep a watch on his nobles. That means these slaves also worked as a spy. He says that the services of slaves was unavoidable for carrying women or men on palkin, or that means dola. He says that the slaves were very easy to maintain as it was very inexpensive to keep the slaves. A normal household could afford to do so kept at least one or two of them. So students, that is all about Ibn Battuta. In our next segment, we will learn about the accounts of Francois Bernier. Thank you.